Capital R Romantic by Stars in a Jam Jar on AO3. Episode 3, Chapter 3, Tuesday. That was brutal, man. Kaminari's breathless voice cracked close to Izuku's ear as he leaned against the shorter boy. Izuku did his best to fulfill his newly appointed duty of walking crutch as the two of them, plus Todoroki, fielded out of the locker room. I thought the obstacle course was the thing you were excited about. Todoroki raised an eyebrow. I mean, yeah, but also, Understandable. It was really neat, though. Izuku chirped. I had no idea the entire thing would start shifting and moving. Someone in another class said something about it. Kaminari sounded drained. But they said, Midoriya, watch out! Izuku came to a halt before he and Kaminari could ram into a group of 3 people, one of whom Izuku recognized. Hey, Shinsou! Izuku waved. Shinsou almost seemed to startle, but Izuku figured it was the sleep deprivation. He seemed more exhausted today than usual, which couldn't be good. Hey, Midoriya. He waved. His eyes seemed to linger on Kirishima, leaning against Izuku for half a moment before he continued. If Izuku had to guess, he'd pin it on exhaustion-enhanced disorientation, since Shinsou needed to sleep more. I'm assuming y'all've encountered the obstacle course? Assuming who had encountered the obstacle course? What are y'all? Izuku asked. The girls flanked Izuku's bus in a fit of laughter, and now it was Izuku's turn to stare. Ijiro laid a hand on Midoriya's shoulder that he wasn't leaning on in an effort to calm him down. He figured Midoriya didn't get so jumpy anymore, but maybe there was something about girls laughing that made him nervous. Either way, Midoriya relaxed pretty quickly, so it was probably not that bad. Shinsou asked the same thing, said the girl on the left, with the shock of pink streaks in her blonde hair. Shinsou said the same thing, said the girl on the left, with strokes of pink streaks in her blonde hair. It's just a thing we say around here, the other explained. Her hair was made up of a considerably less eye-catching grays, but it also looked more like a liquid than actual hair. They said it was a contractual of you all, so... Shinsou shrugged. Y'all. Y'all. Izuku turned the word around in his mouth. It was strange, but he kinda liked it. Well, y'all get a bit to class. Kaminari grinned, relieving Izuku of crutch duty. I've gotta get to Spanish. Good luck, Shinsou said as Kirishima walked off. I should get to class too. See ya. He broke rank from the girls and walked past Izuku and Todoroki, but before he'd gone too far, the blonde he'd been with spoke up. So, you'll text me? Yeah, Shinsou said over his shoulder, not slowing down too much. "'Kay." She turned and left with her friend down the hall in the opposite direction. Text her about what? The bell rang to release school, and Hitoshi promptly put in his headphones and started scrolling dazedly through Tell Me. Hitoshi really wished that Esmeralda didn't have such an intense love of love songs. He also wished Helajane, who had even named this girl, surely any sane set of parents wouldn't want their child walking around with the name of a column on a periodical table of elements. Didn't have such an intense love of 80s music. But more than either of those, he really, really wished he knew more songs in English, because there was no way he was going to find a song to please the girls that wasn't I Need a Hero by Bonnie Tyler for the lip-singing project. Who knew the hardest part about this exchange program would be something he hadn't even known was a real class people took for school credit? It wasn't that he had anything against love songs, the 80s, or the English language. Well, okay, he had a small grudge towards the English language and had no right to be so clusterfuck than it was. Or even Bonner Tyler and her song that Esmeralda and Hallerjean had thought would be hilarious to use when they've been paired with the only exchange student from the hero course. On the contrary, he thought the choice was really clever. The problem was, it was a little too on the nose for him at the moment. Hitoshi felt a tap on his shoulder, as the students in the hallway all flowed towards the exits. He turned and saw a sun-kissed boy with sage-green war paint and a small scar trailing up from his lip to the side of his nose. Excuse me. Hitoshi took out an earbone, and Michael Jackson was reduced to a tiny accent in the background noises of students, footsteps, and the relief that the day was done. Yes? He asked. He didn't mean for it to sound so standoffish or flat, but he was too exhausted to sound any different. The boy flinched, and for a second, Hitoshi was reminded of Midoriya, for crying out loud. I heard from someone that someone from your class should help me, except I'm not sure how to talk to him. Help you with what? See, Tokuyami said that there was someone in your class who knows how to strategize and stretch quirks really well, but when I asked who it was, I found out, well... Hitoshi had a bad feeling about who this conversation was about. You're talking about Midoriya. Yeah. The boy seemed to deflate further at the mention of his name. And I kinda sorta made a bad first impression on Monday. Hitoshi shoved the tangle of feelings that was a strange combination of stupid crush feelings. He's determined to wait until he wasn't literally sleeping with the object of his affections on a nebulous jealousy. If I know Midoriya, I know for a fact that there is no such thing as bad first impressions with him. You're sure? Absolutely positive. First time we met, he J-Lo flipped me over his shoulder. That got a giggle out of the boy. It reminds me of a character in a book I read way back in elementary school. Neat. Anyways, I gotta get to my bus. Oh, I take the bus. Not your bus, but a bus. Are you listening to Michael Jackson? Mm-hmm. Hitoshi had forgotten he still had the Tell Me app open for anyone glancing at the screen to see. Oh, yeah, I need to find a song by the end of the day for a project. Are you talking about the Theater 4 project? How did you know? Oh, our tenure is Theater 4, and production and tech 3. They're really big on performing. Hitoshi had no idea who this mysterious tender was, but decided this wasn't the time to ask, as the two of them made their way to the bus loop. You know about Michael Jackson. Who doesn't know about Michael Jackson? People who don't listen to music from like 60 years ago? Michael Jackson died in this century. His music does not qualify as ancient. He said it with such finality, Hitoshi was disoriented. Okay then. So, I'm looking for a song. Well, how many people are in your group? 3, including me. Bad would probably work really well. Bad? I get that you live in Japan, but how do you not know such an enormous piece of pop culture? I don't listen to music much, okay? How? Wow, this was too much energy for Hitoshi on like 3 hours of sleep. The other boy seemed to take the hint written all over Hitoshi's face and shrank back. Sorry, I get excited about musical stuff. It's fine. Shinsou! Hitoshi turned his head towards the boys, feeling a little betrayed by his insomnia-added brain for thinking Kaminari's voice could be Midoriya's for a second, and then by his heart for really wishing it had been Midoriya. I get that you think it's okay to suddenly, out of nowhere, decide you want a pastel ball of lightning and smiles for your boyfriend. Anyone in their right mind would want a pastel ball of lightning and smiles for a boyfriend. But could you maybe let me think straight so that I can think about this and whether or not we're compatible? Please? Kaminari, hey. Hitoshi widened his stride, and somehow his exhaustion-addled brain thought it was important to note the way the boy had been conversing with seemingly hanging back a little, and stepped behind Hitoshi. Kaminari broke off his usual group to come over to Hitoshi. How's your day been? You taking a nap yet? Why would I be sleeping in the middle of class? I don't know, maybe 'cause you look like you've been slapped in the face with an insomnia quirk. Kaminari doomed with his snarky smirk that Hitoshi had become more used to. Maybe just hereditary. Hitoshi shrugged. It occurred to him that he had yet to contact his father, or Aizawa, since touchdown in Dallas. Kaminari laughed. If you say so. So, who's your new groupie? The other boy had since stepped closer to, and more directly, behind him. Hi. He waved. I'm Boston. Hitoshi only then realized he never actually gotten Boston's name. Kaminari Dinky. Kaminari held his hand out, and Boston reached out to shake it before promptly retracting behind Hitoshi. Boston. All three of them jumped as Tokoyami appeared next to them. Boston visibly relaxed. Tokoyami, hi, how's your day been? It's been nice. Did you come here to talk to Midoriya? Well, I just assumed he was Shinsou's new boyfriend. Kaminari said with the same smirk that clearly said, I am not and will never be serious about anything. Boston stuttered for a second and avoided eye contact with anyone. They've all pretty much gotten to the gaggle of exchange students, and, of course, Hagakure had heard this. Shinsou's new boyfriend now? She squealed from behind Kaminari, who jumped and set off a static of shock to all nearby students. Ow. Sorry, you can't just scare me like that, Hagakure. What's this about Shinsou having a boyfriend? Ashido popped up next to Hagakure, and Shinsou got the feeling that this was going to quickly turn into a disaster. He was far too tired for this. Ashido, can you please not? He asked. But she stopped dead and got the spaced-out look that people get when Hitoshi uses his quirk on them. Stand there for a bit and listen to me. I am really tired, and I don't have time for the gossipy bullshit, so please, don't. He let Ashita go and promptly turned to leave, pulling his second earbud back in and turning his screen back on. It was hard to see in the sun, so he went over to a nearby Ashita. He was in the middle of that Michael Jackson song Boston had been on about when someone walked in front of him. I know, he said before they could open their mouths. I get that it was bad. I'm just not. I don't have the energy to entangle that implantable cluster fuck. Whoever it was reached out and placed their hand on Hitoshi's wrist, and he immediately recognized the slightly crooked fingers and the faded scars and that small scattered freckles around the wrist. And why couldn't it have been literally anyone else? Shinsou, you've been acting kind of funny. Hitoshi refused to look up. The music kept going, and it felt strange listening to Michael Jackson tell you once again who's bad when his heart was straining against his rib cage, begging him to say how much he wanted to give himself to the boy right this second. This isn't how it works. Just stop. I'm not used to being a joke. Shinsou. Hitoshi felt like his entire color palette had gotten a heavy dose of blue wash at all the way Midoriya said. I didn't really sleep last night. Sorry. I know you told me to get lots of sleep. Midoriya sighed. Yeah, I noticed. He put his other hand on top of Hitoshi's free wrist and guided the screen down and out of Hitoshi's view so that he was just staring at their shoes. Is it something I can help with? The insomnia or the burning feeling for you to hold me and tell me you love me forever? Not that I can think of. I get the strangest feeling this thing about you having a boyfriend now wasn't true, but I mean, how can that be when Hagakure is such a reliable source of grounded and well-sourced news? That got a chuckle out of Hitoshi, and he finally felt like he was safe to look up. He was met with a rare, wary smile, and his heart squeezed at how beautiful Midoriya looked with the sun in his hair. Then again, he was pretty sure Midoriya always looked beautiful, and he'd just been too preoccupied by other things to notice. He still felt kind of stupid for the way he had fallen in the first place, since it didn't seem right that his feelings be yanked around so easily by the moment of soft lighting and hushed voices. He grabbed onto the first thing his brain provided with him, in order not to dwell on this. He wanted to talk to you. Who? The guy that was with me. He said Tokoyami told him about you, and I think he wanted to talk quirk stuff. He did? Midoriya was obviously trying not to get too excited at the prospect of discussing quirks, and Hitoshi tried to tell him that this wasn't something out of the ordinary, but for some reason his usual reaction of, "That's sweet," dedicated to amplify itself into, "Help me, he's too good and adorable for this world." Yeah, you should go talk to him. I'll come back over to you guys when the bus gets here. Well, okay, but if there's a way I can help you, or if you want someone to listen to you, or something, you can ask me. Or anyone, really. You're an important part of the family, remember? The smile on Midoriya's face was like a shared secret, and Hitoshi felt something warm and adorning gush from his insides. Right, thanks. Don't worry about it. The words sounded like sugar and cinnamon, and Hitoshi wanted nothing more than to just blurt out how much he felt he needed Midoriya to love him. Maybe in a few weeks, maybe in a few years, but he couldn't. All right, interesting chapter indeed. Doing my southern accent is a little hard because when I get into my southern accent, it's really hard to regulate my tone. When I do any accent, it's hard to regulate my tone. So I could be speaking like this, and I can make it a little higher pitcher, and then a lower pitcher, but like it gets harder to maintain, you know? It's harder to maintain, I guess. I don't know. I'm so focused on trying to keep the accent, I don't keep the tone. Or not the tone, but the pitch, you know? Not to mention, it just makes it difficult. I could do a southern accent, and that's about it. That's about it. I don't even know how the fuck I got to this. I could tell you, oh, you don't say the T's, or you don't say the R's, or you don't do this, or you don't do that. I got no fucking idea. I just go deep into my soul, and I conjure up the most Western, side of me. Actually, I think that's South. Well, shit, well, fuck. Literally, all I do is I just dig deep inside my soul, and I think about horses, Texas, America, and then it just comes out of me. I've been trying to learn a British accent as well, but that one's not as good as my brother. My brother does a better British accent than me. I can't really bottle water. This is about it. But it doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right. I haven't been able to old heart it. I could also do a southern accent that's a little more toned down. So instead of it being like this, very southern, you hear it and you immediately think southern, I could tone it down just a little bit. So it sounds southern, but it don't sound like, out of a movie or some shit. You could still hear the southern parts of it, but I don't sound like I'm just coming out of a radio show. not a radio show. A hoe down, there you go. It's just a little toned down, you know, talking normally, but with a little bit of that accent, you know? I like to think. I don't know, maybe I'm just speaking in a lower tone. Who knows? Whatever. Point it is, this is a very interesting chapter. I wonder if Midoriya was like in his mind like, oh, boyfriend, ha 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 ha. Do I have feelings? Is this the feelings moment? Is it not? It's Wednesday. It's still not the middle of the week. The middle of the week is Wednesday. It's Tuesday. It's Wednesday. And that's probably going to be the middle of the fanfic. Because it's going to be 4 and there's 7 chapters. Yeah. Wednesday's the middle of the week. People agree with that. Wednesday being the middle of the week. So we're about to reach halfway point. So does that mean that, Izuku, you have feelings for a certain someone? Realize your feelings, Izuku. Cue in that, like, spiral black and white thing. Realize your feelings. Anyways, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.